Deep dives and blue skies. Welcome back to Talking Blue with Nick, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talking Blue, the best Dodgers analytical podcast that you can find. I am your host, Nick. Today you're listening to episode 87, and we are recapping the series that just wrapped up between the Dodgers and the Nationals. The Dodgers sweep. They finished Game 3 in comeback fashion. The offense exploded over the weekend in D.C., scoring a ton of runs, a lot of extra base hits, home runs, and like I said, a cool comeback win to complete the sweep on Sunday afternoon. A little bit of a rain delay, but before we get into all that, as always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. That's TikTok. That's Instagram. That is X. You could follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. If you like the Dodgers, if you like baseball, I tweet all about both of those things. If you are interested in a new baseball podcast, I have a new baseball podcast called Baseball Mondays. Episode 3 will be dropping tomorrow, recapping the first full week of Major League Baseball. And that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and get into the pod. Today, like I said, we're going to recap the series, games 1, 2, and 3, everything that happened in Washington, the 3 wins, all the offense, a couple injury updates. As you may know by now, Mookie Betts went down with an injury. So let's start there. Injury updates. I didn't get to do this last time. So right now, I'm just going to stick with injuries and all the news that's kind of updated and recent. A couple of the things that's a little farther away down the road, like Kike Hernandez, Tommy Edman, even later guys like Evan Phillips and Brusdar Graterol, I'll save those for later on. But the biggest injury update is Mookie Betts. So in Game 2 of this series, after getting on base on a walk and scoring on an extra base hit from Freddie Freeman, he comes around the bases and comes out of the game. It was reported as back tightness. Later, the next day, which was today, came out before the game that he got an MRI and it comes out as an oblique strain. So that definitely sucks. Oblique strains are definitely one of the worst injuries you could have. Not necessarily because it is something that's going to require surgery or something major, but because of the uncertainty of an oblique, how quickly it can strain, and really when you consider that you can't really rehab it, you kind of just have to wait for it to get better, and it's very hard to figure out. So hopefully, Mookie Betts has been a pretty quick healer. The few injuries he's had in his career as a Dodger haven't really been major issues, and he's been able to come back pretty good from them and pretty quick. So, we don't know too much right now. I would imagine that within the next week or so, 2 weeks, we'll start to get updates on kind of let us into like, is this something like we don't see Mookie Betts till June or who knows, even later, or something crazy like that? Or if it goes if it goes well, can we see Mookie back in May or something like that? We'll have to see. I wouldn't be surprised if we could see him back in May. And then, that would be pretty nice because then we could still kind of get a full season for Mookie. It just really sucks because given what Mookie went through last year, he looked like he was in much better shape this year. I know the offensive numbers hadn't been there yet. He did hit a home run in this first game of the series that we'll get to. But it just sucks because he never really got any time to prove himself that he was back physically, and then now he's got to fight through this. But again, hopefully, the biggest positive is that it's literally the first week of April. So he has a ton of time to get back, and he still has a ton of time to come back and play relatively, a relative full season. So we'll see. Blake Snell, another update, scheduled to start throwing to hitters this upcoming week. He is kind of on track for like the end of May. And then the last guy is Brock Stewart. Should get into some rehab assignments this week. Has began throwing to hitters. Let's go ahead and get into Game 1. This was Friday afternoon in Washington. Emmet Sheehan taking on Miles Michaelis. All right, so let's run through that game quickly. The Nationals got on the board first. In the bottom of the first, a 3-run homer from C.J. Abrams. So the Dodgers automatically in a 3-0 hole. But right away in the third inning, Shohei Ohtani answers with a 3-run homer of his own to tie up the game. Later on in that inning, Mookie Betts, he homers to left field to put the Dodgers up 5-3. Later on, C.J. Abrams again. He has 4 RBIs in this game. He makes it a 1-run game on a single. 5-4. Dodgers are ahead. But then another home run for the Dodgers. Andy Pajes, he hits a 2-run homer. Later on, Freddie Freeman, he hits a 2-run homer. They go up 9-4. Teoscar Hernandez would double in the gap to make it 10-4. Kyle Tucker singles to make it 11-4. Keep it moving. Kyle Tucker hits his first home run in a Dodger uniform. Puts the Dodgers up 12-4. The Nationals would rally to put a couple more runs on the board. Keibert Ruiz double makes it 12-5. Jacob Young RBI ground out 12-6. Then Shohei Ohtani would tack on the final run for the Dodgers to make it 13-6. And that would be the final score of this game. Dodgers bats finally bust out. Quickly, the pitching line and who pitched in this game: 5 2/3 from Emmet Sheehan, 1/3 of an inning from Jack Dreyer, 1 inning from Blake Treinen, one inning from Edgardo Henriquez, 1 inning from Ben Kasparius, and that is the game. 11 earned runs from Miles Michaelis, 4 1/3 innings pitched. He got absolutely destroyed. So quickly, we'll talk about Emmet Sheehan, and then we'll get to the offense, and there was a lot of offense this weekend. So Emmet Sheehan, obviously, didn't really have his best stuff in this game, and it's continued to the trend of his first 2 starts. So 5 2/3 innings pitched is his final line. 7 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. He did give up the 1 home run. He did grind through it. He was able to get the win, even though he allowed 4 earned runs and gave up 7 hits. Does go 5 2/3 innings pitched. But the most alarming thing from Emmet is that the velocity continues to be down. And so far early on, everything from what he did last year is down. Because when you look at his fastball velocity, it is down to 93.9 miles an hour. That is pretty much 2 miles an hour down from what he sat last year. In 2025, he sat 95.5. Right now, 93.9, so pretty much 94 miles an hour even. And another very alarming thing from Emmet Sheehan, his 4-seam fastball is the worst pitch in baseball right now. So according to run value, he has the worst pitch in baseball. Not just the worst fastball, not just the worst. He has the worst pitch in terms of run value, a 545 batting average against on his fastball. And that is not good. Okay, that is not like Emmet Sheehan. He's always had a very electric fastball, and he always has pretty good numbers on that pitch. He's not generating the whiffs and the strikeouts that he normally does. And on top of that, he's not had great command. And so it really just, makes me wonder, is Emmet Sheehan injured? I don't really know. Joe Davis mentioned this in the game when I was listening to it. You wonder if Emmet Sheehan, a guy who is one of the few guys in this rotation who kind of has to battle to make the rotation, not like a lot of the other guys who are the, household names. And you just wonder if Emmet Sheehan is kind of battling through something because he doesn't want to lose a spot in his rotation. I hope not. I hope it's just early season, coming off the innings that he threw last year. And, we'll see how it progresses. I don't know if there's been any reports if there were any reports after the game. That's my fault for not looking into that. Velocity being that down is just what is scary. And again, he's not getting the strikeouts and the whiffs that he normally gets. And he's been leaning a lot on the changeup. He did throw more sliders in this game. His first start, which came against the Guardians, or no, was it the Diamondbacks? That game was against the Diamondbacks. He didn't throw as many sliders. He did lean on that pitch a little bit more in this game, so I do like that. But he's pretty much been going away from the fastball, which is one of his better pitches. Obviously given that he throws pretty hard, or he used to, I guess. So it's just some confusing stuff from Sheehan. Hopefully he can get it figured out. We'll kind of see where he's at. His next start will be against the Rangers next weekend, so we'll see. We'll see what the Dodgers can get figured out with him. Hopefully he's not injured or anything like that. But we'll go to the offense. Offensive explosion. And this is the offensive explosion we've been waiting for. If you listen to my last podcast after the Dodgers dropped 2 out of 3 to the Guardians, I gave you guys a lot of numbers talking about the Dodgers' barrel rates, their hard hit numbers, expected batting average, expected slug, and all those kind of numbers. And I thought that an offensive explosion was coming because there was a lot of guys hitting into hard outs A lot of guys like Freddie, Shohei, even Mookie Betts was having pretty good at-bats. There were a couple other guys, and it obviously, the Dodgers busted out this weekend. It was nice to see Tucker and Shohei get their first home runs. Tucker's first home run in a Dodger uniform. That's pretty nice. Shohei, the 3-run homer. Teoscar and Andy Paz both have 3 hits in this game, and we're going to talk about Andy Paz because he has been going crazy to start the year. 5 home runs in the game, 1 from Freddie, like I said, 1 from Shohei, 1 from Mookie, 1 from Kyle Tucker, 1 from Andy Paz. So, it was just a fun game offensively, especially when you get into that 3-0 hole. Obviously right away you think, the Dodgers are going to have to bring their bats today if they want to get back into this game. 16 hits, 5 walks, 8 strikeouts. Pretty fun game. A lot of guys, it was definitely a precursor to what we were going to see for the remainder and the second half of the series. So we'll go to game 2. Game 2, Tyler Glasnow taking on Jake Irvin of the Nationals. So let's get into that game really quickly. The Dodgers got on the board first in the top of the first inning. I believe this is the first time they scored in the first inning all year. So that's nice. 2-0 on a Freddie Freeman double. Later on in the second inning, a sac fly from Miguel Rojas makes it 3-0. Another double from Freddie Freeman makes it 5-0 Dodgers. So he has 2 doubles. Alex Call gets the start in this game. He singles in the left field to make it 6-0. Later on, Luis Garcia would hit a triple off of Tyler Glasnow to make it 6-1. Curtis Mead, a double. It would make it 6-2. But then Andy Paz hits his 3rd home run of the season already to make it 9-2 Dodgers. Another an RBI single for Kyle Tucker to make it 10-2. The Nationals would put up a couple more runs. A C.J. Abrams home runs. He just turns into Barry Bonds apparently when he plays the Dodgers. And then Jose Tina a single to make it 10-5. But the Dodgers would hold on and they would win by a score of 10-5. Tyler Glasnow for 6. Tyner Scott for 1, Ben Casparis for 1, and then Edgardo Henriquez for 1. We saw a lot of these guys come out of the bullpen in this series. So, for 6 earned runs against Jake Irvin. Again, the Dodgers bats showed up in this game. We'll quickly go to Tyler Glasnow, all right? He was definitely the only starting pitcher in this series that pitched pretty solid. So, Glasnow has been off to a pretty good start in 2026. He has not had the elite amount of whiffs yet that he is usually accustomed to, but the strikeouts have still been there. So, Tyler Glasnow so far in 2026, 12 innings pitched, 15 strikeouts. Like I said, the whiff percentage, 25.7 whiff rate, is down from where he normally is, but I do think that will come up, it's still early on in the year. It's only been 2 starts, but he pitched very good in this game. Let me give you his final line. Tyler Glasnow, 6 innings pitched, 4 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts. Couple things with Glasnow. Like I said, he's looked pretty solid to start the year. The most notable thing to me is another thing that I actually talked about before the season started is the walk rate. Tyler Glasnow in 2025 was horrific when it comes to the walks. And he's never been a pinpoint guy. I mean, he is 6'8", throwing very hard, a ton of extension, a ton of breaking pitches that are moving a lot. He's never going to be this guy who has pinpoint control. It's not surprising that he would allow walks. But he generally throughout his career has never been a horrible pitcher when it comes to walks. Like some of these guys that you see that have elite stuff, elite strikeouts, but can't find the strike zone. He's never really been that in his career. For whatever reason, in 2025 he was. I got to imagine that part of that was maybe the shoulder injury that he kind of dealt with last year. I think he also had some calf stuff. But for whatever reason, it affected his command. Right now, he has a 6.4 walk rate. That's great. I think he's pretty much cut that in half because I want to say that his walk rate in 2025 was like close to 12. So he's in the strike zone much more, which is great because with the electric stuff that he has, the strikeout ability, the velocity, the movement, the extension, all of that. When you're that big, you throw that hard, you got so much movement on some of your breaking pitches, it's almost impossible to get hit around. Again, the whiffs necessarily haven't been there yet for Glasnow, but the strikeouts are 31.9% K rate. That's well above average. The velocity is still been great for Glasnow. Nothing out of the ordinary. Doesn't really average in the 96, 97 range anymore, but 95 95.4 on the four-seamer, 95.9 with the sinker. He pretty much is going to sit 96 to 97. He'll still get up to 98. So the velocity looks great. One thing that I have noticed with Glasnow, though, is that he has been relying pretty heavy on that great curveball early on in this year. He's got a 31% usage rate on that pitch, and that's a 9% increase from what he had a year ago. He was about 22% in 2025, right now 31%. So that's interesting to me. I don't think he's ever been a pitcher in his career that throws an off-speed or a breaking ball more than his fastball, so that's kind of interesting if that will continue throughout the year. I mean, right now he's tied 31% curveball, 31% four-seam, 24% sinker, 14% slider. I've always loved watching him. He's got a great mix. Obviously, his signature pitch really is that just massive hammer curveball that he throws, the electric fastball, and then he also has a very good slider. It hasn't been as effective as it was his first year with the Dodgers. That slider was really, really nasty, but it's still a great pitch for him. And he's also added the sinker, which just every year the usage has gone on in that pitch since he's been a Dodger, and it's become a real weapon for him. But back to his curveball, that is his signature pitch, and it really is one of the best curveballs in the game. It's up there in terms of drop and spin rate. It really is an elite pitch, and I think it has the most drop, not necessarily break, but when you consider how hard he throws and how tall he is. So nobody throws a curveball like him that drops that much and is thrown that hard. He throws like a mid-80s big curveball, which is very crazy. Like Clayton Kershaw for so many years threw a big 12-6 curveball, but his was like in the mid-70s. Tyler Glasnow throws like an 82 to 85 mile an hour hammer big curveball. 185 batting average against on that curveball with a 46.2% whiff rate, nearly 50% whiff rate. That's the numbers on the curveball this year. All his other pitches have been good, minus the four-seam fastball, which I imagine he'll get in line. But 100 batting average on the sinker, 0 batting average on the slider, which is the least often used pitch he's thrown so far. And then 333 batting average on the four-seamer, only a 9% whiff rate. Something to keep an eye out with him. Hopefully he can get a little bit more of an increase on the whiff rate with that four-seam fastball, because that is obviously a big pitch for Glasnow. But when you consider that all those other pitches have been elite so far, especially the curveball, we'll see if he continues to rely heavily on that curveball. In this start against the Nationals, how many whiffs did Glasnow? He only had 12 whiffs, so that's what I mean. Glasnow's more in line, it's more common that he'll have like 15, 18 whiffs in a game. I think in his first start against the Diamondbacks, I want to say he only had like 9 or 10. In this game, he had 12. 8 of them were on that curveball, so, the curveball is going to lead to a ton of whiffs. So we'll see if as the season goes on, if Glasnow can incorporate the slider a little bit more. That's a pitch I really like for him. And if he can get some better numbers on the four-seam fastball. But he's been great. Hopefully Glasnow can stay healthy. That's always the biggest concern with him. And I would love to see him throw north of 130, 140, 150, 160 innings. It'd be fun. I think he would, could very easily be an all-star for the second time as a Dodger. And so good stuff from him. We'll go to the offense. Freddie Freeman, he has been hammering the ball to start 2026. And he's even been a little bit unlucky. I talked about this before in my last podcast, but I just wanted to give some numbers. This is prior to today's game, the third game against the Nationals. So I'm sure these numbers have changed a bit, but not too much. Freddie Freeman has the third best expected slug at 737. In all of Major League Baseball, the 5th best expected WOBA at 461. He has the 11th best barrel percentage at 22.6. So 3rd best expected slug, 5th best expected WOBA, 11th best barrel rate. So he is up there with a lot of the elite guys and hitting the ball hard, and a lot of the average, exit velocity and hitting the ball hard. And he's doing all of that while having the 6th lowest whiff rate at 11.1% and the 2nd lowest K percentage at 5.7. That's pretty encouraging to see, because Freddie Freeman, who's always been a guy who puts the ball in play and doesn't strike out, if you look at his numbers a year ago, his whiff numbers did start to take a hit, which is fine, because I've said this before, when you can hit for power and hit the ball out of the ballpark. If you look at Shohei Ohtani's numbers, who is the second best hitter in the game for the last 5-6 years, he does not have great he does not have great whiff or strikeout numbers. He strikes out and whiffs a lot, actually. So you can strike out and swing and miss and still be an elite hitter. But Freddie Freeman has never really been one of those kind of like three true outcome guys. Ohtani is not that either, but Freddie Freeman has always been a guy who's going to hit close to 300. Like, he's a complete hitter. But that was something of note last year, that the swing and miss numbers did go down. So it's exciting to see that he is, completely amped those numbers, where he's in the elite category in terms of not swinging and missing, not striking out, and he's also had these elite contact, like barrel rates and expected numbers. And I think his OPS dropped a little bit because I don't think he had a hit in the game 3 today. But the numbers are definitely going to start to look pretty because this luck is going to even out, and he's been hammering the ball. Let's go to Andy Pages. Like I said, Andy Pages in this game 2, he had 3 hits. At the time, he was hitting 500. The batting average has come down after game 3. He has 16 hits, which is tied with Xavier Edwards for the most hits in all of baseball. Probably just won himself Player of the Week with the crazy weekend that he had in the National League. He's hitting .471 to start the season. And probably the most exciting thing about Andy Pages is some of the things at the plate that he is really improving on and increased. He has an increase in hard hit percentage, his bat speed, chase percentage, whiff percentage, and contact percentage. So he's making more contact, he's swinging and missing less, he's chasing less, which is massive for Andy Pages. Hasn't necessarily led to a ton of walks yet. He's still only walked a handful of times, but I do think he had a walk in game 3. He's increased the bat speed, which is interesting. I would love to know how he did that. A lot of guys in the offseason do some training regimen that will kind of increase their bat speed. That's kind of interesting to me. He's also increased his sprint speed, another thing. I wonder if he just came into spring in better shape, stronger, and it's led to better bat speed and better just foot speed. The hard hit percentage, again, all those are great to see from Pages. If you look at his numbers right now, he's hitting .469 with 500 on base, a .781 slug, and a .1281 OPS. Of course, these numbers won't, continue for the remainder of the year. He won't have a 500 on base or a .781 slug, but it's just good to see right now that he has made some adjustments at the plate. Like I said, with the chase percentage and the strikeout numbers, the whiff numbers. We'll see how much of that can continue throughout the remainder of the year, because his approach at the plate is not necessarily the style of a guy who, he's a swinger. He's not going to necessarily take pitches, walk a ton. He's going to, chase a little bit, but I did say before the season that if he can just increase those numbers a little bit, if he can increase the walks a tiny bit, if he can increase the chase numbers, it's going to lead to an elite center fielder. And right now, he's been that. One of the best hitters in the game, one of the best center fielders in the game. He still plays great defense. He's off to an amazing start. We'll see how much of this he can continue throughout the year. And he is looking like he's due for a massive season. And, he has been fun to watch early on in this season. And this offense was so fun to watch this weekend. So let's go ahead and get to Game 3. All right. Of course, Roki Sasaki, he takes the mound against the left-hander Foster Griffin. Let's go ahead and recap that game. So the Dodgers get on the board first in the top of the third inning. A solo shot from Shohei Ohtani, his second home run of the series. Later on, though, in the third inning against Roki Sasaki, Luis Garcia Jr., he homers to dead center to make it 2-1 Nationals after a Keibert Ruiz single that makes it 3-1. With 2 outs in the fourth inning, Roki Sasaki gives up a 3-run homer to James Wood. So the Nationals double their lead. They go up 6-1. So right away, looking like, all right, the Dodgers are going to just take 2 out of 3 from Washington. But not so fast. In the top of the sixth inning, Dalton Rushing, his first home run of the year, he gets a start in this game. Alex Call also was on base a ton. He drove in Alex Call. So a Dalton Rushing 2-run shot makes it 6-3. Then this is where the Dodgers really mount their comeback. In the top of the eighth inning, with a couple runners on. Santiago Espinal, who got the start against the left-hander, he singles into left center field to make it 6-5, 1-run game. Kyle Tucker would pinch hit, an RBI force out, a ground out, makes it 6-6. Then a Shohei Ohtani sac fly. That also came in the 8th inning, puts the Dodgers ahead. Later on in the 9th inning, they would tally on one more run. A Teoscar Hernandez solo shot to center field. Like I said, it makes it 8-6, and the score would hold. Edwin Diaz comes in for the 9th. The Dodgers get the win. Edwin Diaz gets the save. Jack Dreyer gets the win in this game. The Dodgers complete the sweep of the Nationals, an offensive explosion. 13 runs, 10 runs, 8 runs. Roki Sasaki for 5, Alex Vesia for 1, Jack Dreyer for 1, Tanner Scott for 1, and then Edwin Diaz for 1. Like I said, he got the save. Let's get to Roki Sasaki. All right, Roki's final line: 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts. He did have 14 whiffs in the game, which is a lot more than he had the other day against the Guardians. So first of all, the most notable thing was that Sasaki's pitching in this game. I thought he was supposed to be scheduled against the Blue Jays. It looks like the Dodgers had a choice to either start Sasaki today or Justin Robleski, or vice versa tomorrow in Toronto against the Blue Jays. It seems like they kind of made the decision, let's give Saki a little bit of a softer landing spot against the Nationals instead of going into Toronto against the Blue Jays. So, if you watch Sasaki early on in this game, all right, I do want to say that, I did watch every pitch of this outing and every pitch of this game. And sometimes when you watch a start, I do feel like the box score and the final line doesn't paint the whole picture, and there is context involved. I don't think Sasaki pitched as horrible as this line would suggest. 5 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. Immediately you think, ooh, stinky. He got shelled. I don't necessarily think he pitched horribly in this game. I do think, again, there were positives for Sasaki. But once again, we are left with a bad taste in our mouth and a little bit of question marks. And again, just, it continues the search for Roki Sasaki. But let me get to some of the positives that Roki did kind of show in this game. Like I said, 5 innings pitched, 14 whiffs is an improvement. That is a fair amount of swings and misses from him that we haven't seen a ton of from him throughout his career as a starter. The slider continues to look pretty solid. All right, he continued to throw that at a 28% usage rate, 29 sliders. He got 16 whiffs in this game. Okay. Or excuse me, he got 6 whiffs on that pitch in this game, I should say. The velocity, 96.6 miles an hour. That's fine. It's technically down from what he was, I think, in his first start. But, if you watched him pitch, he was pretty much throwing as hard as he normally does. He looked pretty solid early on in this game. He was throwing strikes. He was in the zone. The slider looked good. He had a couple of good strikeouts. He had a nice strikeout against Joey Weimer where he got him to chase a nice slider. A couple other strikeouts. He got a strikeout of C.J. Abrams on a nice splitter. Like I said, the velocity was good. Wasn't giving up a ton of hard contact, which is something we saw in the first start as well. But again, what Sasaki misses is kind of, right now what he's missing is the elite whiff/strikeout rates. And, when you're a pitcher who, we're still trying to figure out, what is Sasaki's style? Is he going to be a guy who just induces weak contact and lives off of that? Is he going to get strikeouts? What is his way to being a good pitcher? If he's not going to be a guy who gets a ton of strikeouts and he's going to be a soft contact king, as they say, that's fine. But it unfortunately does lead to a couple things. In the big inning that he had where James Wood took him deep, there was the single from the single off of the bat of Hubert Reeves was a ground ball to the right side, Freddie Freeman covering, hits off the bag and bounces over Freddie Freeman's head. That would have been the third out of the inning, and it would have kept it at a 2-1 game, I believe. Then a soft, line drive single to left field. So when you don't have that whiff ability, when your four-seam fastball continues to not really generate a ton of whiffs. Now, he did have 5 in this game, which is actually, for his standards, it's pretty good. He still does not have a great four-seam fastball and doesn't have great numbers on that pitch. But like I said, his numbers have looked they were a little bit better in this game. But when you're a guy who's not getting a ton of whiffs and you're gonna, there's gonna be the ball's gonna be put in play, it leaves the potential possibility of something like this happening. Then it's just funny how, like, if you were watching the game when James Wood hit that home run, he threw a filthy splitter the pitch before the home run to make it 0-2. And literally Oral Hershiser said, verbatim, he said, this pitch has to have some spin and not be close to the strike zone. All right? He literally threw a splitter right down the middle, and James Wood crushed it to dead center. And it was like all the positives that we were seeing from Sasaki were out the door. Now, to his credit, he did come back out. I thought he was going to be done after that and only pitch 4 innings. He did come back out for the 5th inning and have a clean inning, and I think he struck out 2. So, yeah, that's it once again just leaves a lot of question marks, a lot of uncertainties, a lot of scary thoughts about Sasaki. I wonder why he has yet to throw some sinkers. I thought that was a pitch that he was incorporating in spring training, and I thought that was a pitch that he was going to continue to use, but he hasn't thrown it in the regular season yet. I don't love that he's just a 3-pitch guy. When you throw literally 3 pitches and your fastball is not good, at least right now it's not, it just leaves so many. It just makes you so much hittable. It makes it so much difficult for you to, like, maneuver through hitters. I really think that if he had a sinker at least to get in on right-handers, that could help at least cover up the 4-seam fastball issues for now. He really, like, again, that's why I feel like it needs context when you watch a start. I think there were still positives from this game. And although the 3-run homer, like, was like a punch in the gut because you're like, ugh, he was so close to having, like, a pretty solid start. He was so close. I still come away feeling solid about where Sasaki's at because the command has looked better where, like, he looks much more comfortable. Like, he can go out there and attack hitters and be in and around the strike zone. It's not perfect. He's not pinpoint. He will allow walks. I think he allowed 3 walks in this game. 3 walks in this game. If we can continue to see an increase in the whiff numbers like we saw in this game, 14 whiffs, if he could somehow get that up to 16, 17, 18, I think that's going to help. It's going to help take out a couple of those, like, bloop hits that we saw today. There was a good amount of hits that he gave up that were not really hit that hard. If he can increase a little bit more whiffs, that will help take away stuff like that. But yeah, 7 in 9 innings pitched, he's got an ERA of 7. So it's still a work in progress with Roki. The splitter is still a great pitch for him, and I do think he's found something with his slider. I just think that he really needs to try to incorporate the sinker, and it's just he's just got to be better. I don't really have much of a, the 4-seam fastball right now has an 11% whiff rate. If you take a look at his slider, 33.3, his splitter has a 60% whiff rate. I also feel like, honestly, I like that he is like working on the slider and he's thrown that a good amount and he feels comfortable with it. But I don't want him to forget that he does have one elite pitch, and that's his splitter. He hasn't necessarily thrown a ton of that pitch so far. 23% split. I mean, that's fine. He is using it, but I wouldn't mind seeing a little bit maybe of a decrease in that 4-seam fastball, which is at 49% right now. Because with the 49% 4-seam fastball pretty much means you're getting a 4-seamer or you're getting a splitter slider. That's it. And I feel like the 2-seamer 4th pitch would help even out a little bit of those usages. And I think it could help. I think it just could help overall. I would like to see a little bit of an increase with the split, but it's hard with Sasaki. If he's not in and around the zone, it's hard for him to throw that split because he's not going to get any chases on it or any offers on it. So we continue to move on with Sasaki. His next start will be next weekend against the Rangers. I do think there are positives. I do think we are due to get like a pretty good start from Sasaki. We'll see if he can get some kind of swing and miss. Again, it'll be It will be in LA next week against the Rangers. So we'll see. The velocity's been fine. He's, the slider that is added looks like it can help. We'll see. We will see what he can do. So we'll wrap up today with the offense. This was definitely the best game of the year. The most fun game of the year. Fun comeback. Dodgers were down 6-1 in this game. End up winning 8-6. Shohei and Teoscar heating up. They both went deep in this game. That's pretty cool to see. Teoscar in hand is 850 OPS to start the year. That's great. That was nice to see get his first home run out of the way. Shohei, two hits today. Obviously the homer. His OPS is just under 900. There are a lot of guys heating up in this series. And I wanted to give a shout out to the bench, specifically Santiago Espinal, Dalton Rushing, and then Alex Call. All those guys got to start today. Alex Call, 2 hits. Shout out Alex Call, 4 for 8 to start the season. Hasn't gotten a ton of playing time, but he's got an OPS over 1,000. Santiago Espinal hasn't been great, but he did come up with that big hit today off a left-hander. And then Dalton Rushing hit the 2-run homer to get the Dodgers right back in the game. So he also made a couple nice throws from behind the plate. So the bench was huge in this game in a day where Mookie Betts goes on the IL. And then Kyle Tucker also got the day off in this game. So those guys stepped up, and that's great. Great depth so far from the Dodgers in a nice win. Really a true team win. Like, everybody contributed in this game, even the bullpen. Once the Dodgers were able to come back and get the lead, Tanner Scott shutting it down in the 8th. Edwin Diaz shutting it down in the 9th. Jack Dryers looked good to start the year. Alex Vesia, as consistent as they come. I don't think Vesia's had the strikeout numbers yet, but he's he's the IVB king. The fastball still looks good. I think the strikeouts are soon to come, and that's pretty much going to wrap it up. What a fun weekend. I told you guys in my last podcast that I obviously wanted to see a sweep because they were playing the Nationals, who aren't really that great of a team. But really what I wanted to see was, I would have been fine if they took 2 out of 3. If I saw the bats really look good, and the bats were amazing. A ton of guys woke up, and I would imagine that now the Dodgers' offensive numbers are up there amongst a lot of the best in the game in terms of just team average on base, slugging, and all that stuff. So a lot of guys are playing great right now. I love the way Paez is swinging the bat. I love the way Freddie Freeman is swinging the bat. I mean, even some guys are quietly Will Smith and Teoscar have quietly had nice starts to the year. Even Alex Freeland, I know he didn't do much today, but he's been getting on base and playing really well. And it's a bummer that Mookie went down, but it's going to give some opportunities to some guys. I didn't get to mention that Hae-Sung Kim got recalled before this game, so we'll see him. I think he got into this game later for defense. Dave Roberts said that it's going to be a mix of him and Miguel Rojas at shortstop in the absence of Mookie Betts. So that is a nice vote of confidence for Alex Freeland, because Freeland is actually a guy who's a natural shortstop, but I think that they want to keep him at second base because I really think that they believe in him, and I think they like his process at the plate. But so it's going to give some infielders some opportunities to play. It's funny because I just took a look at Miguel Rojas's OPS, and it's 566, but I feel like he's had good at-bats to start the year, and he's been hitting the ball hard. He had a couple hard hit balls today. He hit one ball to center field that I thought he might have almost hit it out for a sec. So, and he's made some great plays defensively. So, it sucks to see Mookie go down. We'll see in the next week or so if any updates come out. I hope it's not too bad of a scenario. I hope Mookie can start to feel good and we could see him come back in May. Seeing him hit that home run, his second home run of the year on Friday night, got me juiced and was hoping that we were going to see Mookie start to really heat up on this young season. But it's unfortunate, but fortunately for the Dodgers, they have a ton of depth and they can cover it. And we need to see the offense continue to be good. With Mookie going down, obviously it thins out the lineup. But if Shohei's going to start to heat up, and you pair that with the way that guys like Freddie, Teoscar, and Andy Paz are swinging the bat, Kyle Tucker's starting to throw out hits. Obviously went deep, had a 2-hit game. He had an RBI today. I'd love to see him really get to turn it on. I've had big expectations for Tucker for this season. So The Dodgers are looking great so far. I believe they now have a record of 7-2. Offense was great this weekend. The bullpen has been really an unsung hero for the Dodgers all year so far in this young season. I'd love to get a little bit more consistent starts from the rotation. This week, I should say, the Dodgers will go to Toronto, so that will be exciting. A World Series matchup. I'm sure they're going to get booed like freaking crazy. I can't wait to hear like Miguel Rojas' first at bat, or like Yoshinobu Yamamoto take them out on Wednesday. Like, I can't imagine the way that they're going to get booed from Toronto fans, but that'll be a really fun series. And like I said, Justin Robleski will get the start tomorrow against Max Scherzer, and then we're going to get to see Shohei pitch Tuesday and Yamamoto pitch Wednesday. So that's going to be a fun series. I think the Blue Jays have got off to a little bit of a slow start, but they're still a very good team. So, and then the following week series in LA this weekend will be the Texas Rangers coming into town. So that's pretty cool. So Dodgers are off to a great start. We'll see what they can do against a couple of American League teams this week. That is all I have for you guys. As always, you can get this podcast on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can follow us on all social media at Talking Blue Pod. You can follow myself at Nick Talking Ball on X. And like I said, subscribe to my new podcast YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. My new podcast is Baseball Mondays. Episode 3 will be dropping tomorrow. So I appreciate you guys for listening. We will see you Thursday to recap the Dodgers and the Blue Jays.